What's up, y'all? How you doing? Welcome back once again. Well, the day has finally come. The long-awaited and often promised full review of the Sig Sauer P320/M17, and otherwise known as the new standard issue handgun for the United States military. So I picked this gun up about probably 5, close to 6 months ago now, and I put about 400 or 500 rounds through it. I don't have an exact count. I need to get better at that. And the sad truth is, guys, I'm just not rich enough to do these, 5,000, 10,000 round reviews like Garand Thumb and Lucas Bodkin and all these other guys do, but I'm going to work on that. Hopefully that changes very soon, and if you have any sponsors out there, please have them give me a call because I could definitely use the coin. Anyway, so I made a bunch of shorts outlining a lot of the major issues I had with this gun. I'm going to go over all of them in this video, plus a couple more. Now, I mentioned in those shorts, probably the biggest annoyance to me, my biggest pet peeve with this pistol has to be the trigger. And before I start manipulating it at all, yes, for all you internet RSOs out there, the gun is empty, the magazine is empty, this gun is rendered safe, so yes, I can handle the trigger and all that other good stuff. So, you see I just racked the chamber. The pistol on this, the trigger on this pistol, I should say, is absolutely atrocious. I mean, I'm being kind in saying it is a piece of crap trigger. I have shot a lot of stock Glocks. I don't care for Glocks. I do not like the trigger. That's probably the biggest complaint me and a lot of other shooters have with Glock. This trigger is as bad or worse than a stock Glock trigger. Because, y'all take a look at this. That trigger is spongy as all get out. It doesn't really have a wall. I mean, typically whenever you train on a pistol, or a rifle for that matter, and I train people to do this, you push your trigger back to the wall until you feel a stiff resistance. That's how you know the shot is about to break. Then you apply just a little more pressure, shot breaks, gun goes off. This pistol doesn't really have that. And also the reset on this thing, let's do the trigger pull one more time. See, I'm applying even pressure to this. I'm waiting for the wall. There is no wall. And again, this thing is spongy. It's almost gritty in a way because, again, there is no wall. You can't really tell when the shot's about to break. You never feel any resistance. It's just one long, steady trigger pull, and it just doesn't feel good to me. And this reset, letting off, it's almost the entire original trigger pull. For me, a good pistol trigger, and especially a rifle trigger, the reset should be about halfway through the entire trigger pull. That's when you feel and hear that little click like you just saw there, and you know that the mechanism is engaged once again. All you have to do is apply a little bit more pressure and that shot's going to break. For this particular pistol, see the trigger's already out again. I'm shooting. There it is again. I always try to push back to the wall. This doesn't have a wall. It's very annoying. It affects accuracy. It affects those follow-up shots. And when I did some high-stress drills with this thing, it is so annoying because you've got the gun presented on target. You're trying to get to that wall. You're trying to let it out, get those good, accurate shots. And I'm shooting all over the place because I'm trying to find a wall that isn't there. It is so freaking annoying. Another thing that another bone to pick I have with this pistol, the safety. Because in another video I did, or a short actually, I talked about whether or not you should engage the slide release or go over the top, and I did it with this very pistol, in fact. The problem with this gun is you almost have to go over the top in order to get a new round in. That's because, if you look at the way the manual safety is arranged on this gun, it almost sits in that perfect spot where you can't easily reach the slide release. If I have my hand at rest, let's say I just dropped the empty magazine, I stick another one in, now I'm ready to drop my slide rather. I can't do it from a position of rest because, for one, my thumb isn't long enough. It sits just far enough out to where you can't easily reach that slide release. Also, this manual safety is right in the way. You can almost use this as a gas pedal when it's down because it sticks out so far, but at the same time, it's actually, oddly, it's like the perfect wrong size. It's both too small and too big in a lot of ways. But in order to one-handedly reach this slide release, I kind of have to turn the gun, break my grip, and engage that slide release. The only other way I can really do it is, say I've dropped my magazine, I'm putting a new one in. Now my firing hand is up here, just like on an AR-15 with that ping pong paddle. My support thumb is right here. I can push the slide release and drop that slide. I can see how that would be a good design feature, especially for the military. In this case, I don't like it. I don't think it's very good for civilian protocol or civilian use. Now, going back to that safety. This thing, as I said, is almost the perfect size. It's too small and yet also too big. Because if I have this safety engaged while it's holstered, I have trained on 1911 my entire life. I am so used to flicking that safety on and off, especially whenever I'm holstering and unholstering and reholstering. It's just second nature to me. My thumb just naturally does it, whether I'm shooting a 1911 or a Glock or some other modern pistol that has absolutely no safeties on it. In fact, with my new Echelon that I'm currently carrying, I find myself doing it all the time, even though this has a Glock-style safety. In other words, it has no safety. And the problem with this is, I keep saying this, it's almost the perfect size in the wrong way. Because yes, I can draw the gun and disengage that safety if I'm calm, if I know what I'm doing. Again, when I did high stress drills with this gun, I had that safety on. I carried it just the way I assume the military wants you to carry it. Full magazine, chamber hot, locked and ready with the safety on, so that way when you draw, you can disengage that safety. But when I did high stress drills, where I'm just going through the motions, falling back on the training, I'm not doing slow deliberate movements, like just now. I'm putting this gun up, and I'm missing that safety because it's just small enough where you can easily miss it if you're in a hurry, but it's also too big for you to reach your slide release. It's absolutely annoying. It's in that happy medium that drives me absolutely crazy, and I can't stand it. Same thing if I try to do it left-handed. If I want to do a one-handed reload on this thing, magazine goes in, I can't reach my slide release. Have to turn the gun, break my grip, now reestablish my grip. And also another thing, I mentioned this in the shorts as well. These sights suck. I mean, I get it. Iron sights on a modern handgun are almost redundant. They're on the verge of being obsolete. But for a lot of guys like me who grew up shooting iron sights, in fact, most older shooters, sights are pretty important because that's the way you sight down your firearm if you don't have a red dot attached to it. Never mind the clucking. My chickens are deciding to become guest stars here. The biggest pet peeve I have with these sights is not only are they hard to acquire, because let's see here, you can kind of see it there. Again, I go back to Glock. I do not like Glock sights. I think they are the most rudimentary piece of crap sights on the market until now, because these things are probably as bad or worse than Glock sights. They are so hard to acquire. I mean, here in the daylight, yeah, I can pick it up. I've gotten these a little dirty doing a little training with them, and they were hard enough to pick up when they were brand new, but now there's a little dirt on these rear sights, and the white on the front side has started to wear off a little bit. It actually takes me a solid second to actually pick these things up and put them on target. That's not good. On a handgun, especially a combat handgun, you want sights that you can just throw it up and immediately find. That's one reason I love the Echelon. Now on these, another problem with the sights is if you look at this plate, you can definitely tell this handgun was designed to have a dot put on it, because this is the plate that you have to take off to actually attach a red dot to this handgun. And if you take this plate off, you will notice that you take off your entire rear sight with it. Now, a lot of red dots on the market today have a set of faux rear sights or replacement rear sights that come with the dot itself. Now, a lot of guys think, well, what's the big deal? You're putting a red dot on your gun. It's just like an AR. I mean, a lot of guys take the sights off their AR completely and just rely on the sighting system, whether it's a EOTech, a Holosun, a Sight Mark, whatever it is, because you don't need those backup sights, in theory. With a handgun, it's a little different. Red dot sights for pistols have come a long way. I mean, I remember when I was a kid when, red dots on pistols was purely a competition thing. You had those really weird AK style, steel frames that completely went over the pistol, wasn't even attached in a lot of ways. They were big, they were bulky, they sat like this high off the gun. Now they attach directly to the slide, and again, they can replace or at least back up your rear sights. The fact that you lose your sight completely to mount a dot to this pistol kind of bothers me. I keep comparing this to the Echelon because to me that's one of the best handguns on the market today, because if you look at this Echelon, it has a universal mounting system where if I take this plate off, I can put my red dot there, but you notice that my sights are untouched. The sighting system is completely separate from the red dot mount, as opposed to this, where you have to take that entire plate off and you lose your rear sight. Now, another problem with the red dots on this particular pistol, this uses a Delta Point Pro sight platform. That's a very rare platform in my experience. Trust me, because I looked high and low for pistol dots that would actually be accommodated by this pistol. Pretty much the only two I found that were in easy supply and actually had a good track record were the ones made by Sig and one made by Holosun. They were both specifically made for the P320. They will not fit on, or I guess they will fit, but they're designed to work specifically with this handgun, not with any other handgun. To me, that's a little bit of an issue because how can I put it? There's aftermarket support, and then there's proprietary usage. This is right on the verge of proprietary usage because I like things to be universal. I like to be able to use the same sight on this, and if I want to, I can pull it off and put it on my Echelon, which I could possibly do because the Echelon has a universal sighting system. Go on, guys, I'm trying to film here. Never mind the chickens. But in this case, this gun actually has almost proprietary use, red dots and sighting systems, and I don't really like that. Let's see. Oh, another thing that I really didn't like, this is more of a pet peeve, I should have, caught myself whenever I first bought this gun, the grip angle. The grip angle on this thing is very steep, as you can see. It kind of reminds me of these new AR grips that are almost straight up and down that a lot of guys swear by. I think a lot of combat vets really like that. I don't particularly care for that. Again, I grew up shooting in 1911. I like that nice 18-degree grip angle. It's just about perfect. It's a natural pointer. It just feels natural in the hand. As opposed to this. I know you can get different grip modules. In fact, they make grip modules for the P320 that have a 1911 grip angle. Problem with that is the module costs almost as much as the handgun whenever you get all the bells and whistles on it. I think that's a little redundant. I think that's going a little too far. I mean, if you're turning this into a competition gun, then yeah, go for it. And if you got the money to burn and you really want to, well, you do you, buddy. You do whatever floats your boat. For a stock handgun, though, I do not like this grip angle because whenever I throw this up, I actually have to adjust the gun most of the time or adjust my head to get on the sights. And as I said before, the sights are hard enough to pick up already. But when I had to adjust the gun most of the time to actually find my sights, I can't just throw it up and find the sight naturally. And yes, this is a training issue. A couple thousand more rounds on this thing, and it should be like second nature. I throw this thing up, sights come up, I see it, boom, target is down. No big deal, right? The problem is, there is a limit to training to your gun. Your gun should be able to accommodate your basic needs, your ergonomic preferences. In a lot of ways, it's like buying a car. I mean, yes, I can go out and buy a good old Honda Civic for a couple $1,000. Well, maybe not anymore. But you can go out and buy a bare bones basic Honda Civic, drive that thing around, and eventually you can become, what's his name from Fast and Furious, Vin Diesel's character. You can become that guy with that thing because you've gotten used to your car. Or you could just shop around, find a car that you like, find the car that has your preferences, and now you're already that good. Same thing goes with handguns. If you follow a lot of people's advice and say, just buy a Glock, just buy a Glock, Glock's perfection. After you send it back to Glock and have half the stuff on the gun fixed, then it's perfection. Well, I digress, that's a different video. Long story short, whenever you pick a new handgun, especially one that you're planning to carry every day as a civilian, it should feel natural in your hand. It should feel comfortable. And I knew right off the bat whenever I picked this gun up, I don't like that grip angle, and my first thought was, well, I can train to it, I can get used to it. After all, this is the Army's new handgun, it's about to have a whole lot of aftermarket support, everybody's making holsters for this thing. But I also found an issue with that because most of the holsters are for the P320, not the M17, and this is the M17 model. That's on me. Also, I knew that you could get different grip modules, but I didn't think they would be that expensive just yet. And it's actually really rare to find one that I like. Most of the grip modules I found are just basic clones of what already comes stock on this gun, and they're really not worth the money in my opinion, especially if it's going to be an EDC gun. I mean, you can trick it out to your heart's content, but I digress there. Also, and something I won't do here on YouTube because, crazy YouTube rules, is the disassembly. Whenever you want to disassemble this gun, you actually have to flick this down. Oh, I have to drop the mag, never mind. You actually have to flick this little lever down and pull this out, drop the slide should come free, and when you pull this little lever out, the entire trigger assembly should come out. Again, this is a training issue. I'm sure if I did it a couple hundred more times, it would be easy peasy lemon squeezy, but to me it's a little difficult. It's a little complicated, it gets in the way, there's a lot of parts I'd like to snag. In fact, this little lever most of the time doesn't want to come out for me. It could just be this gun, I don't know, that's my opinion. So, there's a lot of things on this gun to love. A lot of guys swear by it. There are guys who think this is the best thing since sliced bread. I know guys who are in the Army right now, the National Guard, even a couple of Marines have picked this thing up, although I don't think this is a standard issue for the Marines yet. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But a lot of guys love this gun. I know guys who bought these, tricked them out, and this is their new everyday carry. Now, of course, I bought this to be my everyday carry. But having trained with it, I don't think I want to carry this thing. Because again, I've got the issues with the sights, how whenever I throw it up, it actually takes me a second to acquire the sights. The sights themselves are so small that I can barely acquire them as is. If I'm in a high-stress situation, boom, 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 oh no, my gun's gone dry. Now I have to drop the empty magazine, put a new one in, and I had to break my grip to drop my slide, then reacquire my grip, get it back up, try to find those sights again. That's not a good combination when seconds count. In fact, milliseconds are the difference between life and death. Now, of course, I can train myself to do the Army way, where I just slap the mag in, use my support hand, get that slide release, but at the same time, the slide release is tiny, guys. Look at this thing. It's teeny. I mean, yes, you can get aftermarket parts, just like anything else, but you're adding more money to a platform that you've already put like $600-700 into. This slide release should be larger. This safety, in my opinion, should be moved back and maybe made a tad larger, not much, but just a little. This needs to be more ergonomic. The ergos suck on this gun overall. Now, as far as mounting lights and such, no complaints there. I mean, it's standard pick rail up here. You can mount just about anything on here. You can mount it as far back or as far forward as you want. Again, no complaints there. Aftermarket support is insane for this gun because, again, this is the military's new standard issue. So everybody's going to be making holsters, everybody's making parts, but only a couple people are making sights for them, and one of those is SIG itself. That's always a red flag for me whenever the gun manufacturer is making one of the only decent sights for the gun, because to me that just, ooh, I don't like that. That's a big red flag for me, but that's just me. In closing, guys, is this a good gun? Kind of. It's great. The Army adopted it. They must have seen something good in it. But me personally, I don't like it. I mean, it has way too many things wrong with it. The safety, the slide release, the trigger, the sights, even sometimes getting the magazines in there. Now, these are really good magazines, I will say. I think it was Military Arms Channel, Mac. He said that these may replace Glock mags on the market pretty soon as the factory standard, or the industry standard, because these are really good mags, I'll give him that. And the fact that this full capacity military magazine has 21 rounds, that's awesome. Gives you 21 rounds of, pure firepower. You load this baby up with some good hollow points of self-defense ammo, you've got a powerhouse. And if you got another one of these in your pocket, well, that's just that much more firepower. That's 42 rounds you got. Problem there is, look how much that magazine sticks out. This is definitely a duty or field use gun whenever you have this magazine in here. Now, I have the smaller magazine that only holds 17 rounds, and it sits flush. And actually, that's another issue that I should probably bring up. It just came to me. Look how blocky this thing is. I mean, you've got right angles all over the place. This thing prints like a mofo. I'm not even kidding. I tried it with a couple of holsters that I got from my buddies who actually have SIGs and they like them. When this thing prints, it is painfully obvious that is a gun. I mean, sure, most modern handguns have that same issue. But when you get to like the Glock or the Echelon, where they have a little bit more curve to them, some more odd angles and stuff like that, it's not immediately obvious unless you know what you're looking for that, ooh, that's a gun. This guy is a box. I mean, one look at this and you know what that is right away. Again, guys, I'm trying to round out my point here, but long story short, I don't like this gun. The sights suck. The trigger sucks. The safety sucks. The slide release definitely sucks. That slide release is probably one of the first things I would replace if I wanted to put some more money into this thing. I gave this gun a shot because, again, lots of aftermarket support. It was so popular. The Army went to it, so mags and compatibility and all that's going to be everywhere. But then I started actually getting into the nuts and bolts of this thing. I started shooting it, and I realized I do not like this gun. It kind of sucks. I can shoot it well after a couple hundred rounds, but the fact that it took me a couple hundred rounds just to get used to the trigger and everything else on this gun is not a good sign, especially for a civilian context. Now, you may be a diehard SIG fan. I know a few of those guys. They think this gun is the best thing since sliced bread. They won't carry anything else, that or a P365. In fact, one of those guys is about to take this gun off my hands. It's not going to be in my collection very much longer. Now, I'm not going to tell you, do or do not go out and buy one of these things. If you want it, go for it. If you pick it up and it feels like absolute heaven, like this was made to fit your hand, by all means buy it and carry it. If you pick it up like I did and you immediately think, yeah, that feels weird, I'm going to have to train to that, that may not be a good thing. That's kind of a red flag again for me when it comes to handguns. In closing, guys, I know I've said that a couple times, but I actually am wrapping it up. In closing, guys, I don't like the P320 M17. It will not be in my collection much longer. I hope this video is informative for you guys, and I hope it helps sway your decision one way or the other if you're thinking about picking one of these up. So guys, now that we've settled that issue, stay armed, stay informed, and stay frosty, my friends.